Welcome to another episode of the Flag Stays Down podcast, special edition. We got friend of the pod, Ethan, back on. Talk a little bit Man City, talk a little Club World Cup, and ultimately talk a little Ford Madison. But Ethan, how you doing?
Man, a little bit sad. I gotta be honest. My soccer teams have not been winning. Need a little bit more of the kicking the ball into the goal. And from there, then we'll be good.
Yeah, Ford Madison finally got their first home win.
Yeah, it doesn't not count, but it's a cup that we've already been eliminated from, essentially. So I think we have one more game, so it'll be play the kids. But yeah, it was nice to actually get a win. A goal from open play is the next accomplishment we need.
Definitely been a while on that.
Yeah, at least three or four. I don't have the stats right in front of me, but yeah, 3 or 4 or 5 games. We're scoring goals from the penalty spot, but that's about it.
Which is weird because that was for a long time it wouldn't even get awarded a penalty. Now, now it's the only way
Yes,
we score.
yeah, no kidding. But hey, such is life.
Right.
It's been really tough to see some of these new teams pretty much overtake us in one year, but we'll see how long those new teams last. I was really thinking about going down to Texoma this weekend to see one of those games, but then, July 4th is not going to be a great day to miss being in Wisconsin. What a great day to be in Wisconsin. And who wants to go down to North Texas, South Oklahoma in July? Not me.
Yeah, I don't even know where is Texoma.
I believe it's near. Oh, it's in Oklahoma. It's honestly, I don't even think it's all that close to Texas, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, a strange sight for a, for a professional club, but it is what it is. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's just start out with Fort Madison because we're on a roll there. Uh,
Yeah,
we're not scoring any goals, and of course, I forgot to mention, co-host over at Talkin Flock. So awesome to hear your insights on a pretty regular basis here. But what is holding Ford Madison back?
yeah. So you're totally right. Thanks for dropping that. I am more of a regular now on Talkin Flock with our guy Rob. The thing that's holding the Mingles back, well, kind of like I said, more jokingly, but it's a little more serious too. They're just not scoring goals, and some days it's they don't get the chances, and some games it's they get the chances and they shoot poorly, and some days it's just because we play a team that's just better than us and they beat us. It's really pretty frustrating because we are, I'm going to say, 10 games into the league, and it the Mingo's core is basically all the same players that it was last year that took us to the Cup final and the league semifinal. So I think a couple of guys didn't improve from last year. I think a couple of guys regressed from last year. One of the cool parts about being on Talkin Flock is I get to sit in that post-match presser with a coach, and usually we get two players. I just kind of started with them. I've maybe been on Talkin Flock for 2 months, and the post-game pressers I've been doing are pretty sad, difficult, no fun, because the coach has to come in there and explain, okay, we lost to our biggest rivals, but we lost again. Coach Matt Glazer has really been honestly kind of a little pressed. I wasn't there for this weekend's presser, but like I was saying before, this weekend's game wasn't super crucial. It's a cup. It's the Jägermeister Cup, which is the League One and USL Championship interleague cup. And since we are getting smacked around by the championship teams, we're not really still in that. But the fight is there, the fire is there from the coach and hopefully from the players, but they're just nobody really is grabbing the match by the scruff of the neck. Chelsea fans who watched a long, long time ago would know that sometimes Diego Costa would just pop up and decide, "Hey, we're going to win today because I'm going to kick this ball in the net right now." And obviously, the Mingos don't have the caliber of player like Diego Costa, but we don't really have the attitude of that kind of player either. We've got some steel in midfield. We've got some mean guys who aren't afraid to leave a challenge and pick up a yellow. But going forward, our best players haven't been able to control the game. As I alluded to before, there's, I believe, 4 new teams in the league this year, which means scouting is a little bit more difficult in the previous years. And they're facing a couple different new kinds of defense, whether it's a 3 at the back or a 4 at the back or 5 at the back. But the Mingos just have not been able to put together a consistent attack. To be honest, Andy, I don't really think they've scored more than 2 goals in a game this year. And I think we've had 3 2-goal games. So more than half of our games, we're scoring 1 or 0, which can work. if you can keep a clean sheet, which we did pretty well last year. But this year, Burn Shipman, our goalkeeper, my dad, has actually been out a little bit. The backup goalkeeper is from Omaha, so can't expect much.
Yeah, and I was actually looking at the table yesterday, and it's so weird. Obviously you're looking at Union Omaha and then Ford Madison in the bottom third of the table after being
Yeah.
two of the better teams last year. But Ford Madison, third least amount of goals conceded in the entire league,
Yep.
but also the only team to still be at single digit goals scored. And I think you're right about having a Diego Costa type up front. I guess they never really announced it. We just saw it announced when Charlotte announced it. When Christian Chaney left, I knew that was going to be a big blow. As irritating as he could be at times, he's a guy who was pushing forward, who was getting those shots on target, and they don't have anybody to fill that void.
Yeah, and he absolutely was a grab the game by the scruff of the neck kind of player. He didn't mind getting a yellow. He didn't mind complaining to the refs, working the other team, working his own players. You're right, and I think I'm picking up what you're putting down. His mentality was a little bit questionable, and to be completely frank, I believe he scored 6 goals in the league last year, which is not like, hand on heart, I'm thinking, oh, he's such a great player. Like, 6 is not a number that's going to be too hard to overcome. But we have completely lost his personality profile. And I think from hearing from the coaches and seeing what's happening on the field, I think some of the players are just a little bit lackadaisical this year. I'm worried that the fan culture in Madison has kind of stalled out a little bit. And I think a good thing that we did from year 1 to year 2 was COVID. So that's kind of just a massive asterisk. But from year 1 to year 3 and 4 and 5, I think we really kind of stepped up as the fans. And I think this has been the first year where the fans have not been as good as they were last year as well, along with some of the players. And I think that kind of contributes to some complacency among the players. I know that nobody for Forward Madison is on a league minimum contract. So I'm wondering if all these guys are pretty comfortable here. And I'm wondering if they're hoping for another year. But to be honest, at this point, it's July now. So these guys have to start fighting for spots in the squad next year. And so I'm kind of looking forward to seeing a little bit more drive from them. And in my limited conversations with Coach Glazer, he is pushing them to that as well.
Well, and we saw, I think it was 2 years ago now, maybe 3 years ago now, they're not afraid to gut a squad. I mean, I think Nazim Bartman was like the only returner.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So yeah, the guys definitely gotta start fighting at some point here.
Yeah, looking around. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, looking around at the squad, there's not a whole lot of guys that I would be disappointed if they didn't come back next year. Devin Boyce is probably one of the hardest working Mingos. I would be pretty sad if he didn't come back next year. But beyond that, I mean, yeah, you really need kind of a pretty significant squad refresh. I'm not worried about Derek Gebhardt going up a league. I'm not worried about Galindrez going up a league to the championship or, to some second division somewhere else team. We do have kind of a newer lone player, Luca Dorado. I don't know if you've been seeing him. He is owned by Championship Club Birmingham. I am worried about him going up a league. He's almost certain to do it next year because he's with us on a loan. But besides that, I mean, there's none of these guys are like sniffing the championship, it feels like. Whereas last year, I felt like we had 2 or 3 or 4 guys who might get poached off us and are not with us anymore.
Yeah, and I think you're right on Boyce. It would hurt me to see Boyce go. And I would consider, I think, maybe 3 defenders probably crucial. And that's Mitch Osmond, Jacob Kroll, and Timmy Mel.
Yeah, you know what? Now that you bring up both of those names, I'd be sad to see Jacob Kroll and Timmy Mel leave. Both of those guys are good fellas. I have reservations about Mitch Osmond because I believe this year he's 33, 34 and struggled with a lot of injuries so far. So I would love to see him back next year. He's a great guy. He's a great captain. He's probably my second favorite Mingos captain of all time. But yeah, he's a little older now.
Yeah, and I might be a little recency bias on that. They had the fireworks and autographs after the game on Saturday, and Aiden wasn't able to make it, so I went by myself and went up to Mitch and told him, like, hey, you're my son's favorite player. Like, could you please sign scarf for him? And wrote him a note on there. And yeah, so it would hurt me personally to see Mitch.
Yeah, I agree. He's pretty much like the biggest Mingo in the squad currently. He's got the biggest stature in the team. He's the captain for a reason.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, from one team that's been knocked out of a cup to another. We obviously talk a lot of Chelsea on our podcast here, but there are some other English teams in the Club World Cup, and me personally, I didn't watch any non-Chelsea games in this tournament.
Uh-huh.
How I know City was eliminated, but overall, how would you rate their performance in this cup?
Yeah. So first things first, no matter what Gianni Infantino wants to dress this up as, this is a preseason tournament. You can put lipstick on a pig, still a pig. So as far as preseason tournaments go, I'm pretty pleased with it. I think the most interesting angle of this whole tournament has been Man City, and I think a little bit Chelsea as well, have been really intent on getting their new signings in early so that they could play in this tournament. I don't think that's something that they've really ever had in the summers that I've been a City fan. Typically, there's either a Euros or a World Cup right away in summer, and that's give the players a break and let them return to their clubs at the end of July, whatever. Whereas this year it's been stay with your club, and Man City brought in 3 new players, all of whom featured in this tournament. And I thought that was really interesting because it forced our board to get their signings in, forced them to get their work done right away. And I think they succeeded at that. And so my biggest takeaway is we've had a great transfer window this summer already. We've signed 3 players: Ryan Cherky, Ryan Alt-Nouri, and I'm not Dutch, so I just have to call him Chiani Reindeers. And all 3 of them have featured. I don't think Alt-Nouri has scored, but I believe the other 2 have. And this has been a really great summer tournament to kind of showcase those 3 new players, your 3 new transfers. That's been really fun to watch.
Yeah, and Chelsea went out and signed Liam Delap prior to the tournaments. We've gotten to see him. Of course,
that's right.
That City fans are familiar with.
Yeah, we've heard of him.
And he's looked good. We've got João Pedro, who was just registered. He'll probably play tomorrow, which is amazing. But how do you rate the 3 new guys coming in? I think a lot of Premier League fans are at least familiar with Ryan Alt-Nouri.
Yeah,
I'm a little biased. I'm also a Lyon fan, so Ryan Cherky, that hurt me a little bit, him going to City. But how's he been looking?
Yeah, I mean, really fun, really sexy. He seems like the most exciting. Well, I can't say that's true. He's the most. I failed to describe how Neymar has this quality of just exciting football player, and I think Ryan Cherky has a little bit of that same quality. Some people call it flair. Some people call it, tricks and flicks or whatever. I think he's really going to be quite a player. I think he's a little bit similar to Phil Foden, which is nice because I think Foden is growing into a player that's not so much like Phil Foden anymore. I think Phil Foden's eventual destination is the midfield, and I think he's going to be escorted there by having guys like Cherky and Savinho on the wings instead of him. Yeah, he's been really a nice signing to watch. It's been a little bit sad to watch Lyon have to go down to the second league, so my condolences for you for that. But when you have a great player and you get relegated, that player moves off your team. And so good for City to jump in and see that situation before it was materializing. And here you go, Lyon. Here's a nice $25 million bump to help you try and avoid relegation, which seems like they're not going to. I believe they were relegated, but now they're also in financial crisis as well. Not sure.
Yeah. So they, I think they were set to play in the Europa League. Actually, might still play in the Europa League, but they basically broke France's version of PSR and huge point deductions that way.
Yeah.
So, obviously the big departure for you guys was Kevin De Bruyne. Do you guys have his replacement? Like, who do you think steps into that role?
To be honest, I think Phil Foden. I was kind of talking about that earlier. I don't know that Foden has the creativity or the vision to see it, but I'm positive he has the passing range and ability. I think a little bit of Man City Twitter has been calling them the Unks lately. Kovacic, Gundogan, and Bernardo Silva, I think, are going to do a little bit of that. But to be honest, I think we're just going to kind of, I guess I'm leaving out one more guy. Chiani Reinders, I think, is the like-for-like replacement, but I don't think he's going to be able to do as much of the creative work. So I think it's going to be kind of up to the wingers to do a little bit more providing the ball to Haaland. I don't know how closely you followed City last season, but I really, really thought that the wingers were incredibly disappointing. Savinho and Doku are should be better than they are, should be better than their output is. And they're both very creative, dribbly, bouncy wingers outside. But we don't really need wingers that score when you have the best center forward in the league, or the best, center forward of his generation. So I think Pep's job this year is to figure out how to get the ball into Holland, because as spoiled as it may sound, a 30-goal season from Holland is not very good. Obviously he's not going to score 50 every year, but you got to be somewhere in between those two numbers, because City has always been a team that kind of goes directly through its striker to score, even going back to Aguero. So I think they just need to figure out how to get good crosses in the box or get more runners in the box so that if Holland gets double or triple teamed, there's other guys to score. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how Gianni Rangers joins the fray and sees what he can do. We spent a little bit of time talking about Cherky, and I am excited to have him, but I really do think Reinders is like the best signing of the season. He was Serie A Player of the Year last year. So there's only 4 guys like that if you consider the Bundesliga, Liga 1, and then La Liga of Spain. For City to be able to buy a Player of the Year in a top 5 league, there's only 4 of those guys available. And so to have that for us, is really impressive, especially considering we pretty much, downgrade the salary, obviously, but did have to pay a transfer fee. We pretty much swapped him for De Bruyne in terms of sending De Bruyne back to, I think he's at Napoli now this upcoming season. But yeah, I'm really excited to have Reinders on the team, because I think he's the passing replacement for KDB.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely kind of an under the radar. Obviously, there are no under the radar signings at City, but just like with Chelsea. But yeah, Rangers is a guy that I've been following for a couple of years now, and yeah, absolutely, I think he fits Pep's system. He, definitely great vision, makes great runs from what it looks like. Kind of just your all around kind of that number 8 box to box role. So definitely a solid signing.
Yeah, I really am pleased with this window, especially because, like I said, we got it done early. I don't know if you know this, but the Man City CEO, or the director of football, we'll call him, Chiki Bezerstein, has moved on in January. So we have a new director of football. I don't think that's his exact position per se, but we have a new Daniel Levy, or whatever you would call that guy. We have a new one of him. His name is Hugo Viana, and it's really been good to see him get his business done early. Some people I've seen combine the January and summer transfer windows, and so if you do that, we've signed basically a Rodri backup, the best player to ever come from Uzbekistan, Egypt's best forward, which is crazy considering they have Mo Salah, and now the Serie A Player of the Year, and one of the most exciting players out of France. And also Alt Nori, a fullback that is an actual real fullback, which City typically don't use. We prefer like wingers and number 10s in the fullback position. But yeah, this new director of football that we've got has seemed to bring in a lot of players. I think we're kind of on the cusp of Pep really turning the page on his old squad. If you remember the 100-point citizens with like Sterling, Aguero, and Sane, they had completely turned that page now to the treble citizens, which is like John Stones, Ruben Diaz, Haaland, Foden, etc. And I think obviously some of those guys are going to continue on, but you have to figure out how to turn the page from that squad that's now 3 years away and kind of reload and retool without doing like a full NBA style tank and draft and rebuild.
Yeah, and when you put it that way, combining the 2 windows, it is an impressive year in terms of incomings for City. And honestly, the thing that impresses me the most about this, whether you want to call it a preseason tournament, Club World Cup, meaningful games, whatever you want to call it, 16 goals in 4 matches for Manchester City is nothing to nothing to be mad about. But if it's being considered a preseason tournament, then again, I didn't watch any of City's games. I can't verify this or anything like that. But how do you think the club was treating this? Because I know it seems like some clubs are all in, some clubs are kind of walking through.
Yeah, well, I think we held up a point of pride. Man City under Pep has never been grouped in the Champions League, and we made it through this group as well. I think Pep and the team know how to take a group seriously. And so I was really pleased to not only make it out, but make it out as first place. Too bad we lost to Al Hilal. I mean, it is what it is. I would have liked City to go further because I would have considered maybe going to one of those games. I didn't really love the cities that the Club World Cup was in. I could have maybe done Philly. I could have maybe done Atlanta. I don't know. but I definitely would not have gone to Florida for a soccer game, especially in July. So anyway, yeah, I am pleased with how they took it seriously. Kind of like I said before, we specifically got our signings done so that they could play for us at the Club World Cup. I wonder if there's big bonuses for the players, so it was motivating for the players to get their signatures across to come play for us too. But yeah, I'm pleased with how seriously they took it. I'm all in all pretty pleased for this as a test run for USA for the World Cup. Without getting political, it sounds like not a whole lot of people were like detained or had like immigration problems or anything, so that was kind of good. And I did enjoy in the Club World Cup kind of finding a new team to follow. I'm not saying I'm going to get into the Moroccan first division, but Man City played against a team called Wydad, and they were pretty fun to at least watch. And their fans were super, super hard. Wydad Casablanca. And so I'm going to have to follow them on my little score app and keep pace with them for a little while now. And that's really a nice thing to do for the Club World Cup. It's kind of exactly like what we're doing here. You know, if you guys have a big podcast with a good following, you get somebody like from Talkin Flock with just a small audience and come on, and hopefully maybe we might get a couple listens, like a couple crossover listens. So it's nice to collaborate and go from a big team to find a small team. So yeah, I'm pretty pleased with how it went overall.
Yeah, and that is one of the things I've appreciated about this tournament as opposed to previous iterations of the Club World Cup is that, that group stage, there's more, I don't want to say foreign teams because we support foreign teams, but from other continents. There we go.
Yeah.
Because I know that was one of the cool things about Chelsea playing in the Conference League this year was, playing against FC Noah from Armenia, or
Yeah.
I can't remember the team from Kazakhstan, but now it's fans of that team and Chelsea fans are connected. Like there's been a link made. And so, seeing some of that in this tournament has definitely been one of the highlights.
Yes. Yeah. It's kind of like got a March Madness vibe to it where all of a sudden I'm watching Man City versus St. Bonaventure or, like FGCU or whatever you want to. Playing the small teams is always a lot of fun so long as you don't lose.
Yes, yes. So you mentioned a warm up for next year's World Cup. Yeah, obviously there have been concerns, kind of lower attendances, especially at some of the early matches. You've got weather delays, got water breaks, which we're of course used to with USL. Do you think some of these same issues are going to come up next year for 2026 World Cup?
Yeah, so they ticketed this tournament like bozos. I watched the tickets from the very day that they were announced, and tickets in like the cheapest possible tickets went from like 300 to 120 to 80, and they ended up not selling out any of City's matches. So in theory, they charged $300 for a ticket that was actually worth a zero because nobody bought it. I'm hoping they are respectful to fans about how the World Cup is ticketed and priced. I'm sure they won't be. It's just going to be a massive money grab. And like, I get it because tourists are coming over here and they have money to spend. So you want to take a good slice out of them if you're FIFA to make the money off the trip that they're willing to spend. But at the same time, I think FIFA doesn't really recognize the value of having a full stadium versus a half stadium. A full stadium is going to do so much for the atmosphere and the culture and the rememberability of this World Cup, if you will. For instance, in my personal opinion, I think we're coming off two pretty lackluster World Cups. I don't know that anyone will really sit around the bar and watch highlights of the 2018 Russia World Cup like we do with the 06 or the 2010 or the 2014. And so I'm hoping that the World Cup can kind of rebound in terms of its cultural impact. I don't really expect it to. And like I said, the current political climate is a little bit funny in terms of letting foreigners into America. So I hope we can figure that out before then. But yeah, I do think that the World Cup is going to be more successful because of this year's Club World Cup. I hope they don't make the same ticketing mistakes, and I hope they are able to do crowd control appropriately and have learned lessons from this.
Yeah, and the ticketing one was odd. One of the guys on this week's podcast was asking me about, well, do you think it was an issue? But I ran into the same thing. They had the same problem with Chelsea tickets of, hey, you can get supporters section tickets early for $300, and then they just keep releasing more and more tickets as it gets closer, and they're cheaper every time. Well, it's like, well, how you're not incentivizing fans to come out.
Yeah. Yeah, and I get it. This isn't really a match for American casuals. Like, you want people in the fans who are Man City fans or like Chelsea fans who are tied to a supporters group or who have been watching for 10 years and who are like merch buyers. This is not like a casuals tournament per se, especially because the people who are watching the other smaller teams are definitely not casuals. So, and I think the World Cup is kind of going to be the opposite, where there's going to be a ton of casuals. So maybe the ticket prices stay the same. I don't know. But as a veteran of the Premier League USA summer tours, you just kind of got to know that when they announce tickets is literally the worst time to buy. That's when they don't know what their demand is and the prices are as high as they're going to be.
Right.
My dad's got an NFL game that he's been watching too, and I think the NFL just came out with their schedules. And same thing, ticket prices are sky high. He wants to go to Packers game at the Arizona Cardinals, and right now the get-in price is like $400 or $500, so he's not interested. But my dad and I also are fans of minor league football, the UFL. My dad's a big UFL guy, and those tickets just dropped and dropped and dropped and dropped. And we went to the championship. We drove to St. Louis without tickets, and so then 3 hours before the game, you grab your ticket and it costs $27 to sit in literally the first row. So that was, as a sports consumer, you got to be a savvy ticket buyer and know when the demand is high and when the supply is high versus when demand is low and supply is low. No.
Oh yeah. So there's we're pushing a little bit against time here. So just kind of as a final wrap up here. I know City's out, and you mentioned you've got other teams to watch now.
Yeah.
We're down to the final 8. Of course, Chelsea play tomorrow, the 4th against Palmeiras. Who do you think is in the final of this one, and who ends up winning the $500 million prize?
To be honest, I think whoever wins between Chelsea and Palmeiras will be in the final because Palmeiras has been playing very well. If I recall correctly, does Thiago Silva play on Palmeiras?
He is with Fluminense, who plays against Al Hilal.
Okay, all right. Well, then they might make it in there as well. But yeah, so it looks like the teams left are Madrid, Dortmund, Paris, Munich, Fluminense, Al Hilal, Palmeiras, and Chelsea. I don't know. I don't see Munich going very far. Everyone thinks Paris is going to win. I might have to just jump on that bandwagon because, yeah, they do look like the strongest team. But I think both Fluminense and Palmeiras have like this jus de vie, this quality that Europeans don't quite understand of life and death consequence. I'm going to win this match. We don't really think it is that way because I don't think it is. But I think they just play hard no matter where they show up. And so I think both of them are kind of serious dark horses.
Yeah, and I wouldn't count out Real Madrid just because they are Real Madrid. Even when they're down, they are still competing at every level. But yeah, the Chelsea side of the bracket is such a weird one. 2 Brazilian teams, a Saudi team, and Chelsea. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me to see Chelsea make the final, but it also wouldn't surprise me to see Al Hilal make the final.
Yeah, they played us tough. That's like a 2018 All-Star team, Al Hilal. They're pretty funny.
All right. Well, Ethan, I appreciate you coming on. Where people are listening, of course, you mentioned earlier about maybe you sparked some interest here. If people want to follow you or follow your podcast, where can they find you?
Yeah, so Talkin Flock. We publish on Facebook. I believe we publish on Forward Madison Reddit as well. And then I'm sure if you just slam Talkin Flock with a TALKIN apostrophe Flock, much more Mingos talk, a lot more intelligent Mingos talk with Big J journalist Rob Chappell. You got to check us out.
Awesome. Well, really appreciate your time today, and hopefully we'll catch you at the next Ford Madison game.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, thanks, Andy. Appreciate it. We'll see you later.